Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and man, we have some great questions this week. I want to take this time to point out that I don't always I can't answer all these questions in this space in this video, but Inside the Red Raiders also host a weekly Hump Day chat. So every Wednesday, we host an all-staff chat on the Insider board, like I said, on Inside the Red Raiders, where it's a Ask Us Anything open chat all day. It's pretty lively, generally. Of course, we talk Texas Tech sports, recruiting, but we also have, we're foodies. We'll talk food. We'll talk our favorite whiskey. We'll talk our favorite restaurants in Lubbock, when you come in for games and stuff like that. So take advantage of our Hump Day chat every week as well. If especially if you're trying to get a question answered and I don't get to it here in the mailbag. But with that, let's dive into your questions. The first one comes from Texan44. He wants me to name 3 current Tech players that I would build an NFL team around and why. Well, all right, first off, I'm going to start off by saying, quite honestly, I don't know if there's a player that I would build an NFL franchise around. I just don't know if there's certainly not 3 guys that are that talented. Now, that being said, there are 3 NFL players on this team. There are some good football players that I believe could have long NFL careers. So the first guy I'm going to start with, I'm going to go 2 different routes. I'm going to start off with a guy who I think, yes, he has a lot of talent, but he also has the makeup, the mental makeup of what it takes to truly be a NFL veteran player, and that's Tony Bradford. Actually talked with his position coach, who's a great guy. All the recruits and players love him. Coach Paul Randolph had a media session the day that I'm taping this, and on Thursday, and he just mentioned Bradford's awesome. He's just, he's moving them all over the defensive front, including playing him up at some nose. Bradford's up to 285 pounds. He looks it in some of the clips I've seen, but he's still moving well. Just a great guy. He wants to be don't be surprised if he's like the director of the FBI one day. That's what he wants to do, is be an FBI agent. He's just a leader of men already as a young man. And he's a tenacious football player. Comes from a great high school program at Galena Park, North Shore. I wouldn't put it past Tony being an NFL veteran. I just, being an all Big 12 performer before he's done at Tech, and then having a long NFL career on the defensive line somewhere. I'm a wound to the tomb Cowboys fan. I hope the Cowboys draft him. Another guy, I'm going to go the other route. He has all the talent in the world, but hasn't put it all together off the field in order to stay on the field, and that's TJ Vasher. I mean, his talent is undeniable. He's 6'6". His wingspan's like 7 foot something. I mean, great athleticism. If he could ever learn to be consistent, put it together kind of between the ears, I mean, I think he could be just an amazing player. If TJ does have a good senior season, if he is drafted and can keep his mind straight, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a really good NFL career. All right, third guy I want to go with, and this is kind of a long shot just because I wouldn't say he does anything exceptionally well, but when you put it all together, I think he's a really good player, and that's Sir Roderick Thompson. And I think he's only scratched the surface. I mean, we've only seen his true freshman and then his last year, his redshirt freshman year. And I think he's poised to really just explode onto the scene. The first time I saw him in person was at a fall camp practice, and he had a one-on-one drill with Jordan Brooks, kind of between the tackling dummies, just kind of make a move, make a miss, and he shook. Like, he broke Jordan's ankles, and we all know how good the former All-American first-round draft pick Jordan Brooks is. So Sir Roderick had a very good true redshirt freshman year, and I expect him to have a great sophomore year. And I think he can have at least a 4 or 5 year career in the NFL. I think he plays bigger than he is, and he plays faster than he is, and a lot of things have to fall into place, but I think he could have a good career. Tech Freak asks, is Texas Tech now transfer you, or is everybody doing this at this volume? No, not everybody's doing it at this volume. I think standard is keep 2 or 3 spots and then, get what you need in terms of if you've had some roster attrition somewhere, address a need. Now you can go down the list of the Big 12, and almost everybody's picked up at least 1 or 2 players were like, oh, that was a good addition. That guy's going to help a lot. Tech, on the other hand, and I really don't believe I'm being biased in this, they've added some really nice pieces. I mean, big time. Like they've addressed their needs in the offseason through these transfers way more than I could have ever hoped. I think is the best way to say it. And yeah, Coach Wells is starting to, at least locally, get that kind of reputation. I mean, you look at the success he had with Zach McPherson at corner, and of course he's coming back for his senior year, and then possibly maybe he could play another year if he wants to. R.J. Turner you could make the argument him and EZ were your two best receivers by the end of the year last year. Who was another grad transfer last year, and of course has moved on. They had some other guys who had some tough times due to injuries. That's kind of like that's what derailed their career, and then that's what happened at Tech. But I think everybody they got, you could see like, wow, that made sense. Those guys were really good. And I think this year, I mean, you look obviously at Schooler, Colin Schooler, the former All Pac-12 guy. I mean, I think that's a kind of a weird deal just with the fact that the Pac-12 isn't playing this year, and that's how you got him because he wanted to play. But hey, somebody had to take advantage of that, and Coach Wells and Tech did. Chadarius Townsend, I mean, he's already, former 4-star running back athlete from Alabama. You plug in there, already one of the fastest guys on your team. Great addition. Eric Monroe, I think he's already established himself as a captain type player and team leader. I also think he's going to start for at safety, which, running back and safety were two of the biggest needs coming out of last year, going into this offseason. To address them with former 4-star guys transferring from the SEC is pretty impressive. Tyree Wilson, like I said, I heard from Coach Randolph earlier this week, and he loves Tyree Wilson. He just raved about his athleticism and what he could bring. You're still waiting to see if he gets a waiver. Speaking of waiver, Henry Colombi, former 3-star quarterback who played for Coach Yost and Coach Wells at Utah State, transferring over and was granted that waiver. So I think he's at least going to be your backup quarterback. I think you may need him. I mean, he may start who knows how many games depending on the health of Bowman, this season. So that's a huge addition. This could be one whole video. Brandon Boyer-Randall. I mean, especially with Xavier Benson taking a leave of absence. I mean, can you imagine not having these guys in linebacker? Having him transferring the former Army All-American from Michigan State, just a huge addition. So it's hard to imagine this roster without these transfers. Just huge additions. And I think when you look at it, I mean, you have to tip the cap, especially with the quirk that is this season, that all these guys, if they want to come back, are probably going to be able to come back next year for a second. Some of these guys are going to have 3 years. So they've developed in these big-time programs. They're grown men. So basically with these guys, you've been able to upgrade the age and talent and, honestly, the speed on the roster by doing this. Jacob Morgenstern, by the way, he's going to play a lot outside and help and be a monster on special teams. Josh Berger on the offensive line. I mean, what a great haul through the transfer portal. I mean, they knocked it out of the park, A+ in terms of adding talent through the transfer wire. And no, I do not think this is common in the Big 12 or around the country, what they've been able to do. All right, we have kind of like a rapid fire here. So I am going to keep this short. I'm not going to go on and on about each one of these questions, but WC Red Raid has several questions here. He says, run versus pass percentage on offense per game. I think I'm still going to go, I'm going to say 55 pass, 45 run, because they have so much talent at receiver. And I think, but a lot of that's still going to be the screen game. The screen game is a part of this offense because it stretches the defense, the width of the field, so you can attack inside, both through the run game and then with tight ends and inside receivers, down the seam. So, I think 55 offense, but still some of that's going to be in the screen game, which you can debate that whether that's really a run or not. All right, updated leading tackler for the season. Yeah, I'm going to go with Colin Schooler. I think he's going to be your guy. I mean, how could you not say that? He's one of the active leaders in the entire country in tackles, and I think he is the active leading tackler in terms of tackles for loss. So, and Coach Wells already said he's going to play a lot. So I expect him to start sooner rather than later and be your leading tackler. Biggest improvement on offense prediction. I'm going to say the tight end position, and that's not to take away from Dante Thompson because I think he did a pretty good job of bridging the gap between old school offense to Coach Yost's offense. When I say old school, I mean what we were used to with the two slots. But I think Travis Kuntz he's had an extra year in the offense. He was a former 4-star guy. Everything I'm hearing from tight end coach Luke Wells to his brother, head coach Matt Wells, down coach Yost, all are saying Kuntz is the man. He looks awesome, and they brought in some additions who I think are going to help as well. So I think look out for John Holcomb, the true freshman, by the way. He's a good ball player. I think tight end's I think we're gonna see it more. I think we're gonna, Jason Lloyd too, by the way, junior college edition. All those guys, I think we're gonna see the tight end position play a major role, and it's gonna be tangible this season. The new secondary coach. What am I hearing about his impact? Yeah, I think more than anything, it's the mindset of Coach Derek Jones, who was brought in from Duke. He has one of those kind of infectious personalities. Is always John, always trying to be upbeat, always trying to get people to match his energy level. He's great on social media. I would have hoped that his recruiting we would have seen more results by now. But on the other hand, I gotta say, it's not easy recruiting DBs to Texas Tech right now. I'm hoping that changes, but the secondary's taken its hits. They were 128th, I believe, at 130 teams in terms of defending the pass last year. That's not solely on the secondary, but a lot of it is. I think we'll see improved play this year, and I think that will lead to improved recruiting. And it'll be interesting to see who he's able to bring in. This question is, do I have a prediction that the stadium capacity will increase during the season? See Iowa State's starting capacity. Well, Iowa State, last I heard, is not going to have anybody. So, I'm not even going to predict. I don't have a prediction other than 25%, 25 to 27, which is what they're doing. I think Tech's going to try and streamline that and keep that going. Now, if they can add more people, later on the season. They're going to, trust me, because they could use the revenue, of course. And they want Tech fans. They want more Tech fans. A more exciting atmosphere. So I'm going to say I think it stays the same, but we'll see. All right, the percentage of seniors and transfers that stay for another season with the blanket waiver. I mean, who knows? It's 2020. Anything can happen. I'll say 80% stay. How about that? But there's so much is going to happen from between now and then. There's no telling. But good questions. Thanks, man. All right, next question comes from OBX Raider, who wants to know who will win the quarterback backup battle. And I'm going to say I believe it's Henry Colombi. I really do. I like what I've seen of his film. He's much more experienced than Maverick McIver, who really hasn't played a lot of quarterback, period, at this point in terms of real games. His junior season and just the start of his senior year in high school. And that's it. He's been hurt a lot. So, and Colombi has more experience in the system as well. Coach Yost has recruited him to play for him twice. I think Colombi, I feel pretty confident in saying I believe Henry Colombi will win that backup job. But as of taping this, he hadn't done it yet. So there's still some work to do. All right, final question comes from Red Raider KA, who wants to know, he says, give me a grade on how well I think Matt Wells has done and improved the roster talent since he's been here in the last 20 months. Well, I think it's been up and down. I think I like the caliber, the recruits he's brought in. The 2020 guys he brought in that were truly his first class, his staff's first class. Those guys appear to all be hits. I mean, who knows what can happen with attrition? But you talk to these coaches, you talk to them when they're recruiting them or on signing day, they all love all their guys. But by the time they get to fall camp, it's kind of like, well, this guy needs to do that. This guy, you start seeing some cracks in what these guys need to work on and how much work they have to get, to get to the field, just to the field. All these guys are like pushing veterans to see the field. And that's receivers, defensive linemen. I mean, I just heard Coach Randolph talk about Philip Bleedy being like a monster at 280 pounds now, 285 pounds, and that he's playing, doing such a good job in camp that they're like, we got to play him, even over some veterans. So he also said he liked what he saw from true freshman L.B. Moore. And then the receivers are all just crushing it. Taj Brooks, the running back, he's going to play. I already mentioned Caleb Rogers was on the 24/7 true freshman All-American team. So first team at tackle. So, I mean, come on, it gives you an idea. These freshmen are tearing it up. They hit with this 2020 class. So the numbers haven't been so huge, but the way they've augmented with junior college guys like Krishan Merriweather, the All-American linebacker, Devin Drew, defensive lineman, Cameron Watts. I mean, I can keep going on. A lot of junior college guys, but then all those transfers, which I mentioned earlier in the video, I don't want to go overboard. But the roster was really porous. I mean, I said it. I was screaming from the mountaintops for years that roster management was such a problem that I felt like that Kingsbury should be replaced. That recruiting was terrible, which he's admitted himself, since moving on to Arizona. And then the attrition level, I can go on and on. But bottom line is, it's noticeable how they've improved the roster. And it's not just me saying, where they talk to coaches, people, staff in and around the program, both on and off the record, is kind of like a wink and like a knowing nod, like, man, this is a different roster. Now, is it Oklahoma and Texas talent? No. But you get guys that fit your system, that are more talented than what you had before, smart guys, emotionally intelligent guys, get them developed and experienced, then all of a sudden you're competing. You're in the fight, as all the tech coaches like to say. And if you can find ways to win those close ball games instead of losing them like you did last year, all of a sudden you're not just respectable, but you're recruiting better because of it. You're going to bowl games. You're bringing in more revenue to your athletic program. All of it. And you start building. Now, getting from that second tier to that third tier where you actually win a Big 12 championship, that's a whole nother story. But if they can get out of the cellar, this doldrums that we've been in this last decade in Texas Tech football, and get to that next tier, then they'll be cooking and we'll have something really to talk about. So I think, to answer your question, Red Raider KA, is I think that foundation has been set in terms of fixing the roster, having real depth and some talent and experience and speed that just was non-existent for at least the last 3 or 4 years. So with that, hey, I want to say great questions as always. Thank you for watching, and until next time.